Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Faster Masters Rowing Radio, where having a rowing coach only makes you better. Following a program gives you a true pathway to becoming a confident sculler who's respected by your peers. You can become the athlete that you want to row with. I'm Rebecca Caroe, and as ever, I'm joined by my co-host, Marlene Royle.
Hello, Rebecca, and hello, Faster Masters. Nice to be here again.
It is absolutely lovely to be here. And we already have some live watchers and listeners. So if you're watching live, below the stream is a comments feed. And you can write a comment in there and we will be able to see it. And we'll be able to read out. So tell us where you're watching from. And if you're watching in the Masters Rowing International group, you have to write your name down because it doesn't actually tell us. So our very, very first one off the block is Melissa. Hello, Melissa.
Northern Michigan. Great.
Northern Michigan. That's probably kind of chilly, I'm guessing.
It still is, yes.
And Gary Barazzini from Stockton in California. There we go.
Much warmer there right now. Yes, much warmer.
It always leads us to having a discussion about the weather, doesn't it? So we have a couple of sponsors to acknowledge before we start off. And it is, again, the Rowing Chat directory. This is a listings for all of the rowing businesses that we can find. There are 16 separate categories. And we have listings from Rubini Jewellers, who do a range of jewelry, including a rowing range. The Scullr GPS Rowing Computer, which is spelled Scullr, and they were used in the Oxford-Cambridge boat race last month. We also have Rowing Solutions, who make electric coach boats, the Rose and Wool Rowing Data Analysis website, and G-Clip Row custom quick release shoes. Please do go and visit rowing.chat, and at the top of the page in the menu is the word directory, and you will see everything there and have a little search. We actually got an inquiry this week for Pine Art Boatworks, someone trying to match their paint. So we can forward messages on to those businesses for you as well. Back to our live watchers and listeners, we have Cece from Whidbey. Oh, she says it was totally fogged in this morning. So that means no rowing, doesn't it?
Or stationary drills.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, as long as you can see the bank. And Rich Weaver from Casper, Wyoming, where my sculling may be developing a symbiotic relationship with two local bald eagles. And Boulder County in Colorado is where Lisa McMath is, as she puts it, tuning in from. Isn't that so sweet? Because actually, when did you last touch the tuning dial for anything? We still keep our old phraseology, even with modern tech, don't we?
Mm-hmm. It dates
Laura
us.
Campbell is in Baltimore, in
Wonderful.
Maryland. Okay. And we have Catherine from Cure Boating Club in New Zealand. Kia ora from fine and frosty Canterbury. Yeah, we had a chilly morning as well, Catherine, but it was 9 degrees here. And of course, where I live in Auckland, I used to live a little further south from where Catherine's from, in Dunedin. And I just said to everybody, you guys are just soft. You know, Aucklanders think 9 degrees is cold.
I had 9 degrees this morning too, so we were the same temperature again.
There we go. It's that little match where one's going into autumn and the other's going into spring. Now, we always start the podcast with a segment called This Past Week. And this is the work that Marlene and I do to advocate more generally for masters rowing around the world. And this week, I have been in conversation with a rowing federation. I can't tell you which one, but a national federation who is really keen to expand their support for masters within their membership program. And so I have high hopes that we'll be talking further and that there will be some really good things coming out of that. If you're listening and you think your national federation could do with a little sharpener when it comes to providing services and products that are relevant to us masters, please just get in touch and let us know. We had a lovely response from people over the past week where we said, if your club has a newsletter and you would like to include our articles in the newsletter, please get in touch. So people have already started doing that. So do get in touch yourself, and you can always pass us on later to the person who runs the newsletter. But we have 12 articles lined up, so you get a whole calendar year on the assumption that you do a monthly newsletter ready, so that you can use whatever article is relevant for you right now. What have you been up to this week, Marlene?
My focus this week was working on our Racing Starts Challenge, which is coming up next week. So we were getting ready and talking to some of our special guests, and I will let you give people the details on the Racing Starts Challenge.
So we decided that there was a real need right across the rowing fraternity, not just masters, to improve our racing starts. And we've decided to do a 3-day webinar. Now, on the screen now is an extremely long URL, which is the link to sign up to it. So what I'm going to do is show you exactly what's going on. And here's the detail. So here we go. If you just do a search for Eventbrite, eventbrite.co.uk, and in there search for Racing Starts Challenge, you will find it. The event is designed to give you the opportunity to learn something on one day and then practice it overnight and then come back the next day and then the third day to learn more things. We will guarantee that you will turn your racing starts into a confident part of your regatta performance. You'll improve your mental approach to racing starts. And if you're a coach or a leader in your group, you'll learn how to teach starts and embed them into your athletes' race plans. We've got 3 special guests, one a day. Day 1 is Leslie Wright, who is an Olympic cox. And as you can see, my obvious typo here suggesting that she rode in 1884. No, she's not that old. It should read 1984.
She's much younger. Yeah.
I will correct that. She was a Canadian national team coxswain, and so she has a lot of insight into how to get your crew to the start and to keep them calm. And then secondly, insight for coxswains and rowers about how to back yourself into the start and get attached. Our second day guest is Adam Creek. He rowed in the Olympic 8, winning a gold medal in Beijing, and he is going to teach us Mike Spracklin's method. Now, Mike is one of the most successful men's sweep coaches in the world, and he has a collection, I believe, of 4 Olympic gold medals, multiple world golds, Olympic silvers and bronzes. Mike has also coached sculling very successfully for Great Britain on the women's side. But Adam's going to teach us the method that Mike Spracklin uses.
And this is with the Canadian men's 8, yes.
That's correct, yeah. And day 3, we have Alex James, who is both a masters athlete. She's also the chief executive of Nelson Kellerman. And she's going to be talking about using data in your starts and how to work out which start sequence is best for you. And I want to emphasize best for you because racing starts are individual, and being one crew lineup may choose something different than another crew lineup. Now, everything is being run consecutively at the same time, and it is being run out of a Facebook group. When you get your ticket, it includes details of where to go to get to this private group. You can't find it publicly. You'll only get it from the link. So you do need to sign up, and the rest of the detail is all here on the Eventbrite page. We really look forward to having you join us, and we've already got several hundred people signed up, so we're delighted by that. But share it around, bring your friends and buddies. Everything is going to be recorded, so if you are in a part of the world that is asleep at the time that we're doing it, don't worry. You'll be able to go back in and watch the recording afterwards, so you won't miss out. But as I emphasized earlier, you can't get to the recording unless you reserve a ticket. Anything more to add, Marlene?
I think that's it. I think it's going to be really, really awesome. All three of us are just outstanding, and they love talking about start. So I think people will get a lot out of it.
We have a few more live watchers. Jeanette is in Dundas, Ontario. Hello, Jeanette. And the Baltimore Rowing Massive has David Shackelford.
Yeah.
He says hi to Laura. I hope you guys actually know each other in real life.
Yes, they do, I think.
Cece says she learnt to row in Baltimore, rowing for JHU. There we go. And another hello from someone I don't know who said they worked on their starts in the single this morning. Well, we'll hope to be able to up the ante in your starts. Now, we have some very exciting special guests today. I'd very much like to welcome for the first time to the podcast, Volker Nolte and Wolfgang Fritsch. Welcome to Fast Masters Rowing Radio, guys.
Welcome to you.
Welcome.
Now, you are well-known names to many of us, but for the sake of clarity and completeness, would you introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us a bit about you personally and how you got started in rowing?
H for beauty, Wolfgang.
Okay, my name is Wolfgang Fritsch, and I started to row very early in my life because I'm always had a lot of fun with that. It's because my father was a coach and a rowing coach, and so I started with about 14 or 15 years to row, and later on I rowed very successfully in the lightweight scene, but this is very the very past, yeah. And afterwards, I became a coach, lightweight coach for the national team in Germany, and I know Volker since till the 70s, and we wrote a lot of articles together and some books and so on, and it was a very nice time until he went to Canada. The good thing is that when I came to when I stopped as a coach in 1993 or so, I went to I became a member of the board of the German Rowing Federation, especially for coaching education. And my proper
title?
Beruf was as a lecturer professor in University of Constance for rowing, sports sociology, and learning how to teach every sport, or not only rowing. And when I retired 3 years ago, then I made not so much rowing anymore, but much more running, biking, hiking, and cross-country skiing, and sometimes rowing. So, and many years ago, about 10 years or 12 years ago, Volker and we decided to write this book together. This master's rowing, first time in German, and then this year we translated friend of Volker. He translated this book into English, and so we are here.
There you see, you spoiled my great reveal as to why you're here. Volker, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Volker Nolte, and as Wolfgang said, I also learned rowing very early in my life. I started rowing when I was 14 years old. And I must say, I feel very lucky that I got into the sport, because the sport is, so to speak, guidance for me, almost my railway for the rest of my life. I started rowing, had fun rowing, rowed international junior, made it to the senior A World Championships, and then I started studying rowing, and I was obviously extremely interested in the mechanics of rowing, how it's happened and what you can do and what you can measure. And in those days, biomechanics became a science in Germany. That was probably one of the first doctoral candidates in biomechanics, and the German Sportshochschule in Cologne. As I said, I love rowing, and I still love rowing. I never really stopped rowing, different to Wolfgang. I like running, I like biking, but not as much as rowing. So rowing is my passion ever since. And I even, if it's works out, I even like to race in some competition. So this is where I met Rebecca a few years ago at the World Masters in New Zealand.
Good memory.
This is where we met personally, and I think you did a little interview with me there. And I like actually the sport, the movement, but also the culture behind rowing. Right? It's a very fine sport. We are not so much influenced by doping, for example, or corruption, whatever. Although in the past, in the history, obviously, we had some problems with corruption in rowing when the betting was obviously rigged some years ago, right? Marlene, you may remember in the old Canadian history, right?
Oh yeah, back in the early
90s.
Yes, 1890s, yes. Turn of the century.
Yeah. So, anyways, I enjoyed it. I mean, rowing kept itself relatively clean, and I think the spirit is nice. I also learned rowing in a variety of functions. So I obviously started rowing first. Then the club asked me to help with some introductory courses with young athletes. So I introduced rowing to some high school students. And then eventually I started to study rowing, and I became interested in coaching. And the reason there was actually, I think rowing coaches are easier to convince if you talk on the same level. So I was often asked, well, you are a scientist, you don't really know the coaching stuff. So I started coaching, and actually Wolfgang and I, we had our very first international success in 1984 together at the World Championships, where Wolfgang coxed the lightweight men's 4 and I coached the lightweight men's double. And then since I moved to Canada, I actually had then the chance to become a national team coach with a Canadian team, but also became head coach of a relatively big university program here in Canada. And I was there for 24 years, the head coach at the University of Western Ontario. I enjoyed this very much. It was a very fine experience with wonderful people around. And I really enjoyed the spirit and, again, the culture of university rowing here in North America. And then, of course, I did a lot of things with Wolfgang, as Wolfgang said. So we did work together in the coach education system in Germany. Wolfgang was actually leading in many ways in guiding new curricula and developing new programs and such. And he also always wanted to pass on things. And the best way to do this is obviously to write it down and publish it. And obviously, the last part of this is our new book that you are so kind to help us to introduce today, is Masters Rowing. And
hold up the book. So let's move on to the book. The book is the big reason we're here. So hold it up. Let's all have a look at the lovely cover.
So here we go. I can show it. Yep, that's how it looks.
There we go. Well, it's all this shiny newness. You see, that's that lovely sheen.
Yeah.
Now, just for the listeners, if you're listening live, you can ask questions of Volker and Wolfgang as we go along. So put your questions in the comments, and don't worry if we don't come to them immediately, but I will endeavor to get the guys to answer any questions that you may have during the course of our discussions. I will also put the link to the book in the show notes for those who are listening, but the book is called Masters Rowing. So it's very straightforward and a very short title. So kicking off, guys, can you summarize the message of your book in what's it about?
Well, I would say the message of the book is enjoy rowing, and we try to provide information from a number of backgrounds so that literally every masters rower can get something out of the book for themselves. And we try to promote healthy lifestyle, healthy rowing, exciting rowing in many different ways.
That sounds very, very nice in summary, but I'm going to guess that there is, given your background, a ton of detail behind it. Now, you were kind enough to share a copy of the book ahead of time with us, and I was absolutely blown away by one of the very early concepts that you introduce, which is the 6 aspects of aging. And since aging is affecting all of us and we become, let's say, more or less aware of our aging variously, these 6 are listed as being chronological aging, functional, biological, psychological, social, and training aging. Now, I have heard of some of these, but I hadn't heard of all of them. So what are they, and what are the differences between those different aspects?
Okay. I think all the master rowers always say no the chronological age, because all the races are divided in different age groups, and and from 50 to 55 and so on. And but everyone knows that there are a lot of differences looking at these, and it's a concurrence in rowing. Yeah, some are very fresh and fit and so on, and in the same age group, others were not so well trained and not so fit. Yeah. Yes, this is not because they are not in this age group, because you have different forms of age. For example, how are they working with 65 to 70? Yeah, what is their? Can they do everything in everyday life or so? Yeah, and can they go in the boat without help and so on? So we have a lot of rowers here in Germany who are not racing, but they have a lot of problems to get in the boat. Yeah, and so the same is biological age. Some feel like 40, yeah, with 52, and some feel like 60. Yeah, so it's very different. And so the age groups for the masters rowing, so my idea is must be a little bit reflected or revised. I don't know. Social age, it's the same. Yeah, some want to go for the single and don't want to race any crew or group, yeah, the boat, big boat, yeah, and so on. and the training age in especially in Germany, we have a lot of people, elder people who join rowing and rowing clubs with 35 or 40 and older. Yeah. And so they want to race. But they have nearly a chance, especially when they come from another sports or so. They have no chance to win because of those against those who have who are training since 15, like Volker also.
Yeah, we have experienced exactly that, Wolfgang. You make a really good point there, because I have been lobbying the local race organizers here to introduce a new category that we are calling new masters. So it doesn't matter if you're 65 or 35, the chances are you will perform similarly in a race until you have a few more years of practice and experience. And so we've just had our first regatta where they introduced, if you have been rowing for only 2 years or less, you can be a new master and race other new masters, not in an age category.
Yeah. And we, in our book, we tried to erweitern,
expand
the masters rowing, because normally masters rowing are those who are going for races and competition and so on, and train maybe more or less hard and so on. And we think for rowing, for the sport, it's much better to include all those who are elder, masters, and who want to go for fitness, maybe health, and so on, and need a training plan too. Yeah, and not only those who are competing at the World Masters and so on. And those,
good point.
They know how to race and how to train, and they don't want to be disturbed in their opinions also.
I mean, we can actually right now add something from this experience with this pandemic that we have all over the world. Obviously, depending where we are, New Zealand is much further ahead. But for example, in Canada here, we still have our lockdown, right? And there is no way of thinking about racing. And in our philosophy, Wolfgang and my philosophy behind the book is that we want to give information to people who they cannot row, they cannot race right now. They have to try to enjoy our sport the way maximally as we can, either on the water or through kind of ergometer training or through training in other sports, to continue with this without the ability of racing, right? So we want to expand this view about a master's rower, and like I said, the pandemic is actually a good example for that.
It certainly is, and I think we'd all agree that training on your own has its challenges, but we are all becoming a lot more respectful of the different modes of rowing, whether it's coastal, on a stand-up paddleboard, on your own, in a gym, etc. And I totally support your attitude there. I think that's spot on. So how does rowing help successful aging?
Yeah, I mean, I should actually maybe mention in advance there. So this successful aging is a topic that is drawn all over the book, and we really believe in this. The fact of the matter is we are all aging, and we experience in different ways changes in our body. I can give you nice examples about this if you wish. Right, but probably everyone knows this. Some people have more problems with their bones. Some people have more problems with their body weight. Other people have problems with their agility and so on. And again, we try to address these points in a way that we want to say there is nothing we can do about this aging process, but we can make it successful in a way that your life gets better, your life has more fun, your life has some success.
That is such a robust approach. Marlene's laughing, I can tell. She's thinking about what are the things that... It is true. We all age really, really differently. And here's a wonderful remark from one of our live watchers, Melissa. My mum is a 78-year-old rower that's more active and healthy than most of my 50-year-old friends. So that's a good example, I expect.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, rowing is a sport that actually can help with this, right? Because once again, rowing is a sport that offers tremendous opportunities. I mean, once again, you can do this in a way that you kill yourself in high intensity trainings, but also you can go out and enjoy simply the environment. So, for example, very often I try to go out on our lake, and there is a possibility, if you're very careful, you can go up the river into areas where normally no one rows because it's a little bit dangerous because of deadlocks and such things. But then you are completely on your own. You hear only the birds, you hear the water, you hear the wind, you have the leaves in the trees. And it's such a wonderful experience that this sport offers you. And we would like to transfer this to everyone. And once again, what is interesting to me may not be interesting to you, right?
So that's a difference to Volker. Yeah, from me to Volker. I would like to row in a big boat, yeah, in a 4 or in an 8, yeah, much more than in a single. And for me, the social factor is much more important than other things. And also, training in rowing is not only rowing in the boat. Yeah, you are also training on land or on land.
In the gym.
Yeah, in the gym and so on. And I think, especially for those who live in Canada or so, they have a long winter. And in wintertime, I try to make other sports. Yeah, in springtime, I add some other sports to rowing. Yeah, and also in summer and autumn and so on. It's not always only rowing. You have to vary your load activities. And your activities. And I think it's very important to give this to the masters rowers. Yeah, not only rowing, especially not only rowing on the ergometer or so. Then rowing is like training on a bike in the laboratory or so. Yeah,
yeah, it's repetitive.
Yeah, and then this is I think very important, and so we try to show the opportunities and all the chances they have. Yeah, in rowing clubs
exactly. We can all try something different. So there's your challenge for today, listeners. Now we've got a question from Tony Tarlow, who has said, I always take much more time to really warm up than the suggestions given in the Faster Masters program. So I do the warm up for far longer, and then I often find myself still finishing the warm up during the first training pieces set. What are the ways that older masters can warm up successfully?
Well, this is one of the things that you have to learn. You have to accept. This is what happens. You get older, and the body functions are not starting up as quickly, right? I mean, when you were young, you were able to start a sprint without warming up at all. If you do this now, in our age, you may pull a muscle. And this is simply because the body functions, ages. So, for example, the capillaries are getting a little bit tighter, not as flexible. Blood flow is inhibited, and therefore the warming up process, it simply takes longer. the body needs to have more time to set the parameters, blood flow, oxygen uptake, so that it functions at a way that you would like to, and it simply takes longer. There is literally no way other than to be careful and maybe, like Wolfgang said, help with other sports, that you stay flexible, that you stay agile.
That's a really great advice. And I'm guessing we can add to that everybody is different. You need to work out for yourself. So if you typically drive to the boathouse, you will have a different experience than if you ride a bicycle or an electric bike to the boathouse, where you've been moving as part of your journey.
That's correct.
We're going to take a short break and ask you if you have enjoyed the podcast today, if you are continuing to enjoy it, would you consider supporting us? On fastermastersrowing.com, if you go to a page which is called podcast/podcast, there's a big red donate button there, and we would very much value your support for the time, effort, energy, and costs that we incur in doing this weekly podcast. The subscription starts at $1 US a month, and we would really appreciate it. There are also tiered opportunities to get extras as part of your support. So thank you to everyone who's supported so far. I won't read you out today because we have a special program, but if you have the time, we would love it. Marlene.
Yes, I have a question, but Laura Gamble, one of our listeners, has the same question. So I'm going to read out Laura's question. Are there any specific changes in rigging or equipment in general that you recommend as we age? So if you were going to focus on one key tip for rigging that masters athletes should be concerned about, what would you suggest?
I mean, if I may start, and Wolfgang probably has another idea. I would say the one thing, shorter oars. I see this over and over, that masters athletes are loading up way too much, and this cannot be then leading to some enjoyable movements. Wolfgang, what do you think?
Yes, that's right. You have to fix the rigging and change the rigging for those people you have. You have a lot of ladies rowing maybe with 60, 70 kilos. Yeah, I don't know how much pound it's in. And you have masters rowers who are about 100 kilos and so on. And they cannot row in the same boat comfortably. Yeah? And not only the rigging has to be changed and adapted or so, then also the training intensity, the programs, also the supplementary training, or also the skills you are making for technique. You have to change. Yeah. Volker told me that there are no, what we call in Europe and so on, in Germany, the gigs. These are
gig rowing boats. Yeah.
Yeah.
We call them traditional boats in the UK. So they're made of wood. They're heavier, wider. Is that what you're describing?
Yeah. And so most of the German people, they learn to row in those boats. Yeah. And in the USA or in Canada, they try in racing shells. Yeah. And it takes maybe, if they are fit and if they are very good coordinated, they learn it very fast, and otherwise they never learn it. Yeah. And this we have to think about also for older people, for masters who are coming to the club and in rowing, to change maybe the methods of of learning, learning how to row, and so on. And the same is the relation between the load and the perception of your body. The load is nearly an objective thing, and perception is what you feel. And this you have to change in opposite to elite athletes or maybe our junior athletes and so on. And for the rigging, I'd say, you must have different boats or different measurements for different people, especially in masters rowing, because the difference from very light people to heavy people is very big. It's great.
Yes. And what we do at my club in Quebec is our masters, we only have singles at my club. And so we have different size boats for different weights, but all of our masters who learn to row with pontoons on, and we keep pontoons on our club singles for many of our masters so that they learn in a more stable situation, a safer situation. It's more enjoyable. They can work on the skills, and then as their skill level gets better or they're comfortable, we raise the pontoons up higher off the water. Last year, all of our first year learned to row scullers kept pontoons on the boat, but as they were better, we just lifted them so that they don't touch the water when the boat is balanced and they feel more safe and more secure. And that's how we address it without having a large variety of boats at our club. So that gives us a lot of variability.
In the beginning, I said I'm very fan of crew boats of 4 and 8 and so on, and I think you can learn it in the single, also with pontoons, but you must have the experience to row in a crew boat, because that's my opinion. Rowing is at first it's a crew sport, and then single too, but also more important is crew sport, for me, because
that's so true, as you say. The social aspect comes from that crew participation and the need to collaborate. I kind of feel that we could probably solve world peace if we just put some of the political leaders into a
everybody together
to work it out.
I totally agree. And right now, my club here in Knowlton, Quebec, is so young. We don't have any team boats yet. So, we're I think I have the only double on the lake. So that's something we're progressing to for sure, because I think the experience of people getting into the boat together, I mean, they love already rowing together as a group. And when you can get them in the team boats, I think it takes the experience and the fun to a whole nother level, really.
I mean, I would like to add, and I believe we all agree on this, the one of the major parts is variety, right? That we are not getting stuck with one thing, right? That why not rowing a single? It's fine, but crew boat to learn to cooperate with other people. But in a crew boat, you should not only row one side, for example, right? And you maybe even want to experience coxing to feel how a boat reacts to the steering movements, right?
Sculling and rowing.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I think in this case would be my thing would be variety, include variety, right? And then on the other hand, we should also not forget, we always want to try to challenge a little bit people, right? Coming back to this functional age there that you were mentioning in the beginning, right? We want to try to push our function, so we don't want to lose them. right? And therefore, I think it's a great idea, like Marlene says, you know, in a single, you want to have people not being fearful to get into the boat, right? But then you can lift the pontoons away that they get the feel of more balance.
That's such good advice. And even, you know, I have many years of experience, but you happen to have caught me at a moment where we're just seeking our next challenge. And my club group is going to be having a meeting to talk about the next sort of 3 months and what are we going to do. And privately, I have been in 2 very successful quads for the last couple of years, one older, one younger. And we're talking, yeah, well, maybe we should try a 4, you know, move back to the sweep as variety and a new challenge and a new lineup. Now, I will say at the end of the podcast, we're going to tell you guys how you can win a copy of the Masters Rowing book from Volker and what's your name? Wolfgang. There we go.
Wolfgang.
Sorry. And so listen on to the end and we'll make sure that we tell you exactly how you can do that. Now, I'm going to dive back into a few of the questions that have come through from listeners. David has asked, based on your experience, at what age do you see the biggest drop in performance? So I'm guessing, David, you're going to equate performance with boat speed, because I can tell you my performance is still improving.
In your mind.
Volker's true.
We're getting better.
You know what?
I would say,
yeah.
Also, it depends on the sports you're making. I recognized at the age of 55 or so, then the performance dropped in the biggest way. So this is about 15 years ago. And I mean, 60 is another limit or
threshold. I mean, it's actually, we present this topic in our book quite extensively, and there is, of course, science behind. Everyone experience eventually a drop in performance, and it is not 100% clear why this happens. Logically, we could actually think about that we are probably losing more when we get older than we can add through training. So therefore, it's at one point our performance will go down. And this is, like Wolfgang said, it's a little bit individual, but it is between 55 and about 65 that you see increasing drop of performance, and there is literally nothing you can do, right? And I can give you a little story. I do once in a while a 2,000 meter piece on the ergometer to see how fast I can go, and I note these things now since about 20 years, and I crafted, and the graph that I came up with for myself fits exactly the graph that we published in the book about the general population. So it happens to everyone, even to me.
I am reassured, but also I am right in the middle of experiencing what you've just described.
Yeah, I mean, the point there is, again, you can think about this in a negative way and say, oh, so bad, you know, that this happens. I'm getting really frustrated about this, right? Or you can say, accept it in a positive way and say, this is what happens. Now, what can you improve? Like what, for example, Wolfgang says, you know, your opportunities to row with friends, or to travel to a place to go to a training camp with Marlene, or going to a regatta in New Zealand, or whatever, right? So this is then up to you to turn this into a more successful aging, not in a negative way.
Yes, and I would say also the focus on the skill training, because you may physically change or slow down, but you can still make pretty big strides in your rowing if you put more emphasis on technique, because you don't have that extra time or maybe energy for hours and hours more training. but you can make some substantial improvements in how you're moving your boat by paying attention to skill and working on your skill and improving small things in your skill levels.
That's obviously absolutely correct. I mean, on the other hand, a little limitation is there, Marlene. With age, for example, your balance disappears, right, or slows down. You can try to keep it up, and this is what you said, right, through certain drills or exercise as such, right? But again, you should realize your balance is not as good as a 15-year-old person's balance.
So David thanks you very much for that. He said it's reality, and I like the idea of successful training. Rich has said that this morning he said, I had to slow down the rate in my single. The catch was very clean and it was like silk. I love the reflection of the oars on the water, and I drove home with tears down my cheeks over the beauty I experienced.
Here we go.
So lovely.
That's successful aging.
Yeah. Appreciation. And a remark for you, Wolfgang. A listener says, I'm living in southwestern Ontario, and cross-training outdoors in the off-water season is all that we have. Sometimes I feel we're at a disadvantage not being able to row on water all year round, but it's good to know that that's not the case. Now, another listener has asked a question. He said, the book sounds really interesting. Does this include sample training programs for us who still like to race as we get older?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
I mean, as we said, we are trying to cover the whole spectrum. And yes, there are some examples of training plans and some instructions how to develop your training plan.
So you can write one yourself, which sounds marvelous if you're so inclined.
I mean,
Now,
it's always good to get help and some input, right? I mean, Marlene obviously does this very nicely since many years, and but I think the basic idea about the training must come from each person alone, and then you can add more information.
And understanding the basics of why you choose certain intensities and what role they play in the overall. I think it's really useful to have an overall view of the program and how different components of endurance and intensive endurance, extensive endurance, speed, power, and understand how those components relate to the program as a whole. And then you can refine from there.
All good advice from experts. Now, I want to draw the conversation now towards teaching newcomers to the sport, learning to row as an adult. I think many of our listeners know that I personally coach adult learn to row courses. And I loved the chapter in the book that's all about, it's a really clear method, lesson by lesson, how to teach people to row, what to teach them first and what to teach them later. Now, I understand, Wolfgang, that it's you who wrote this chapter, and you say in the book that you aspire to making learning to row unforgettable and a fun adventure. So my question to you is, what's the main thing in your method that makes this adventure fun achievable?
Yeah, at first, learning to row or learning how to row must be an adventure too. It must be fun. Yeah, it's not a kind of what I say, drill method. Yeah,
Soldier and so military style.
Military,
Right, but
Yes.
it's not so strict, right?
No drills and so on, and you must you have to use all the surrounding and all the special conditions. For that, you want to show to the beginners, and you should think that not you are teaching, or you are not educating these people. You're educating maybe, but not teaching how to row. They learn by themselves, but you only organize. You organize that they are rowing well, and most important for it is a good a good rigged boat. Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is most important. And so most of the people, not all, yeah, but most of the people don't need any drill methods or so to do this. And you should not go into the very different positions of your thumb and what else in rowing, but you must try to make him an Vorstellung, an idea of the whole Bewegung, whole movement. Yeah,
I mean, only one thing we have to watch when you say the German drill means so military style, one thing after another, right? Where in English speaking drills would be so Spielchen would be some games to play, right? So Wolfgang obviously was alerting to this very strict A, B, C, D, and you have to do A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. This is the kind of military style that we should not do.
And to repeat one movement, one movement. Yeah. You do not learn better if you do it like for 1,000 or 10,000 times. Yeah. You have to change the Aufgabe. Oh God, the task.
Requirements, tasks.
Yeah, the task. So the technique they row afterwards is much more stable than if you only try to repeat one movement, for example, to set the blades or to come out of the water for 10,000 and 100,000 times. Yeah, this is, you have, for the children, when they learn to row, the best is you don't say anything. Yeah, you let them try, you let them do it. Yeah, and when they come and ask how to row together, yeah, how can we go together, then you can give them advice, some advice. But you should not formalize rowing learning, and you should have trust in the in the coordination of these people, of these, they try it. The rough rowing movement is not very difficult. Yeah, it becomes difficult when you want to go fast, when you want to go to be a world champion or so, and then you have to think about it. But for normal rowing, normal rowing in all the way, it's not so difficult to learn the main movement, the main movement
sequence. I totally support what you're saying. One of the things that I have learned is to experiment with the people I'm teaching and try different ways of saying things. And I have found that I don't need to explain the backswing, for example. That I tell people we start always square blades, and I don't even explain much about a slide progression. I just say, right now, so put your oars in the water, pull your handles towards you, push them down to take them out. Okay, now you're rowing, off you go. And I love your exhaustion to help people to discover it for themselves. And you can then see for each individual athlete, the pace at which they progress is their unique learning pace, their unique style. There are people who will race to full slide immediately. They'll do all sorts of crazy things, but it doesn't matter. That's what they are doing. And there are other people who are slower, more deliberate with their movements. And so learning to adapt how you teach to how they appear to be wanting to learn, I think, is part of the skill of introducing a beginner and letting them feel that, you're giving them a near horizon that is just a little bit more challenging than what they're doing right now. And for some people, to go to full slide is like crazy. You're asking me to jump off a cliff. And other people are like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was probably about 5 years ago, Volker did a podcast with Joe DeLeo about learning how to row, or at least in a training discussion. And I remember that he was talking about what a great difference it is to put somebody in the boat and let them learn organically in the boat, and how trying to teach somebody to row on the ergometer does not translate to learning how to row in the boat. And I distinctly remember that he said there is no carryover. The brain, if you teach the person how to row on the ergometer, the brain understands it's rowing on the ergometer. And when you put that same person with that same brain into the boat, this brain doesn't recognize the rowing motion because now it's in a boat.
Yeah. Rowing, ergometer, and rowing are quite different sports. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing. If you want to be good on the ergometer, you have to row on the ergometer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you want to be fast in the boat, you have to go in the boat. Yeah. And maybe some other training, but not. There is no transfer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No big transfer between those things. I watched some students. Younger students in our club, when they go on the water, the coach he had 3/4 in broad boats or in gigs, yeah, and he wanted to bring his single on water and then watch them from the water side, yeah, rowing, and until he was on the water, yeah, they all were messing around. They changed the places. They discussed. They discussed who is the best stroke and so on. And they made everything with this boat. Yeah, and so maybe we can learn, and they learn to row. Oh, no problem. Yeah, and. Maybe they learned it from the rowing style or rowing technique, the Lehrer, yeah,
teacher,
how he wrote, but they have other interests, yeah. And so when I was with Volker in Canada with my three children, his son wanted to go in the 8. Yeah, with 3 friends, and so to row in the 8, his wife, me, my 2 boys, they rowed the stroke, and my daughter was coxswain. Yeah, and in between the 8, it was a very new and fine Hudson 8. Yeah, okay, Reklame. Yeah. The only thing he said, and I was very was very pleased. Yeah, he said everyone rows for his own. It took 10 strokes until all 8 people, or all 8 guys in the boat had quite nearly the same stroke rate. So they are self-organizing, yeah, and so many people do it the same, yeah. Okay, elder people, you have to help them, maybe to keep the hands right on the oar and so on and so. But we should trust. Especially in learning how to row, these people. Okay, there are some different special people, but they have problems nearly in everyday life with their coordination.
Yeah, we've all met athletes like that. Now, one of our live listeners has said, Volker, based on your earlier comment, would you recommend having port and starboard rowers switch sides during practice? And if so, how often?
I mean, obviously, this is a very open question. It depends also with whom you are, for whom you are giving this answer. I would say in the learning process, it would be good to do this on the water for several reasons. Number one is you want to have people experience different movements, right, left. It gives you some different feedbacks on which seat you are, but especially also this task to switch seats, right? They have to think about what to do, where they can put the feet, how they organize this, so they work together. So especially in the learning process, I would say you should do this more often than you would do this, for example, if you are trying to plan to row for the US Open, right? Or such things, right? However, I really recommend that people learn to row both sides. First, for health, right? Because again, when we get older, one of the problems that occur more often is back problems. And back problems is if one side is stronger than the others and cannot hold. So therefore, it would be good to do this. On the other hand, it's also important if you come to the boathouse and then they say, oh, we only have 5 ports and 3 starboards, we cannot row together, right? That quite frequently you miss out on an opportunity to row with a crew if you cannot row the other side. So I would obviously think you should do this regularly and you should not get stuck on one side. Of course, it depends on the goal of your training.
Yeah, very true. And as my old coach always used to say, you give yourself the maximum chance of getting picked for the crew if you can row both sides and if you can steer. Yeah.
Well, I mean, steering is also a weight problem. So this may not be so advisable for me.
So coxless boats have steersmen. It's not a weight problem.
Yeah. That's fine. I mean, I remember in 1992, I brought some friends from Canada to the FISA Masters in Cologne, right? And obviously, we wanted to make the best use of our investment to travel over there and so on. And I rode every side, and I sculled, and I stroked, and whatever, right? So I got my entry money worth rowing at this regatta by being capable of doing this.
Fantastic! You are the man of the moment.
Well,
now,
I mean, yeah.
You can win a copy. We have some copies to give away of the book. Do you want to hold the book up again, Volker? And the way to win a copy is to sign up to come to our webinar next week. So sign up to the Racing Starts Challenge, and we will do a prize draw out of everybody who signs up to come, and we will post you a copy if you are a winner. However, I believe the book is shortly going to be published. Do you have a date for when it will be?
It's available. It's done. It's available now. It's available since 1st of April.
Okay. We need to get more copies out there. Tony says it seems to be on back order everywhere. So
well, this is perfect for us.
You shouldn't be doing extra publicity because the book's on back order.
Yeah.
And thank you here from David, who said, excellent program tonight. Gentlemen, it's been a delight having you on the show with us. And what great insights into the extraordinary breadth and diversity of opportunity that we all believe that Masters Rowing offers. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful host. Thank you very much. And we should also realize that this broadcast was actually sent all over the world, right? From New Zealand, Southwestern Ontario, Quebec to Germany. We spanned the world with our Masters Rowing. How better is successful aging?
High five to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So to all of our listeners, please subscribe. You know how to do it. Go to fastermastersrowing.com. Join our newsletter. Each week we send you a summary and a link to listen or watch to podcast. We also, if you can't watch live, and much as we love our live watchers, we do appreciate that for Europeans, the time zone is very user unfriendly during your summer. Gets a little better during the winter. But you are all very, very welcome. And we really look forward to having more people joining us next time. Thank you to all of our live listeners, Laura, to Tony, to Catherine, and to someone who's just ordered a copy. Apparently, delivery is on the 22nd of May. Very interesting. And from Melissa as well. Thank you all very, very much. This has been Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Rebecca Caroe and Marlene Royle will be here at the same time next week. Till next time. Bye-bye.